In this video, we're going to talk about minor scale and how it relates to the major scale. There's a lot of ways that the information interconnects, and you need to know it because in order to figure out key signatures and also your chords, you're going to need to know these relationships. So I started off with our C major scale, which we already learned how to build. And we remember that that was whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. So the first thing we're going to do is just number the notes of the scale, so we can talk about how the major is different from the minor. So if we have C major and we want to make it C minor, we're going to need to lower 3 different notes of the scale: the 3rd, the 6th, and the 7th. So let's go ahead and swap those out so we know which ones we are going to be changing. This is natural minor, which is the most common minor that we use. Okay, so now let's go add our flats in. I said lower, so we're going to need to use flats because we're already starting with naturals. So we lowered our 3rd, our 6th, and 7th. So we made sure we put a flat in front of our note and after the letter. That's one way that it's related, is any major scale that you have, if you want to make it minor, you lower the 3rd, 6th, and 7. So let's just hear the difference between the two. C major sounds happy. C minor sounds sad. Let's do the same thing using D. We already used D when we were learning how to build a major scale using the whole step, half step formula. So we know it has F sharp and C sharp in it. So now we know if we want to take D major and make it D minor, we're going to need to lower the 3rd, the 6th, and the 7th. So let's come over here, and our 3rd happens to be a sharp right now. So when we lower a sharp, it actually ends up a natural. So we're going to go take that away. It just becomes F natural. This is really important. Sometimes you might hear people refer to flatting the 3. In this case, flat is a verb. Flat the 3 means you're going to lower the 3rd by half step. If you see, it can also be a noun. If you saw that something was called A flat, that would be a noun, and it happens after it because it describes what kind of A. So just remember, before something, it is a verb. After it, it is a noun. Okay, let's keep going. We also still need to lower 6 and 7. So let's do 6. I think I'm gonna have to move this over. We have B. In order to still keep it some kind of B and lower it, we have to use a flat. So this becomes B flat. And we're gonna label it. And then we need to lower our 7, which is C sharp. And of course, to lower that, we end up on C. We just take the sharp away. And there we have D minor. There's another way that the minor scale is related to the major, and that is the relative minor. The first step is that we need to find the relative minor, and then we're going to talk about why they're relatives. So take the first note of the scale, and you're going to go down 3. Make sure you start counting on that ladder. 1, 2, 3. So it's A minor. Kind of 2 other ways you could think about it. Skip over a letter, or if you like to use solfege, you can think do, ti, la. You can just think that the relative minor is on la, or the 6th note of your scale. Now, the reason that they're relatives, just like if you have relatives, what you have in common is that you have some of the same genetic material. The major scale is made up of the same notes as the minor scale, but the reason that it's going to sound different is that we're going to start at a different spot. If you remember our whole step, half step formula, you can see why that's going to sound different because that's going to shift our whole formula. So let's go take this down, build our A, and I'm actually going to start at the one below here just so that it's a little easier. So we're going to go down 3 from C, C, B, A, using our ledger lines. Okay, so we shifted all of our notes down by 3. It was starting here before. Now we are starting on A. We went up line space until we had 8 notes. A minor has all the same notes as C major, but they're in a different order. So let's go ahead and put them back in order. We just need to move our A, B, C here, and then we're going to need one more A here too. So I'm just going to come over here. Instead of 2 C's, now we have 2 A's. Let's go take a listen to what it sounds like. So you can see that sounds different then. And the reason that it sounds different is now our whole step, half step relationship is different. So let's go put our brackets in and figure out what our whole step, half step combination is. We have our brackets now. Let's go ahead and lay out our whole step, half step combination. We already knew with our C major that it was whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. So we could actually put those in if we wanted. Whole, whole, half, whole, and that's where we run out, whole, but if we jump down here, here it is, whole, half. So we just started in a different spot, and we can go check that and make sure that makes sense. So if we didn't know that formula, of course we could build it from scratch knowing this formula. So let's go take a look. A and B, there's a whole. B and C, there's our half. C and D, whole. D and E, whole. E and F, half. F and G, whole. G and A, whole. Let's go ahead and put our numbers just so we can see where our half steps fall. Now we have our numbers. We can see that the half steps happen between 2 and 3 and 5 and 6. So in the major, they happened between 3 and 4 and 7, 1. Everything got shifted down. Now they happen between 2 and 3 and 5 and 6. The reason why we need to know the relative minor relationship to the major has to do with key signatures. So when I look at this key signature, this happens at the beginning of your music. It tells you you have to remember to make every F and every C sharp in the song unless a natural is put in. What you don't know is whether it's the major or the relative minor. If you remember, I told you both of those scales have all the same notes, so we have to be able to tell the difference between the two. I'll be showing you in another video how to tell which key you're in, whether you're in the major or the relative minor. Key is just another way of saying what scale you're going to be in. Just a quick recap. Each minor scale is related to its major as a relative minor and also to its same letter scale. So we already know that A minor is related to C major and it has no sharps or flats because C major has no sharps or flats. We can also go and do the first method that we talked about, which is lowering the 3rd, 6th, and 7th. So we took A major, which has C sharp, F sharp, and G sharp in it, and now we're going to go lower our 3rd, 6th, and 7th. And look what happens when I do that. That totally makes sense with what we just talked about before, which is that A minor has no sharps or flats. So it works either way, and it's important to see both relationships.